This video is brought to you by Recurring.co. Track and optimize your company expenses without waiting for your accounting team reports. Sign up for free with the link in the description. In 2010, Steve Jobs wrote a public letter to the software company Adobe. In that letter, he let them know why Apple would never install their Flash media technology on its devices. Roughly 10 years later, Flash is now discontinued. The media player that powered years of website gimmicks, animations, and videos was turned off on the last day of 2020. And it was no surprise. Adobe and all major web browsers had been announcing that for years. But this story is not about Flash. It's about one of the biggest games built with Flash and therefore also passed away. We are talking about the once most popular Facebook game, Farmville. And yes, people were still playing it. When Facebook opened its platform for developers back in 2009, Farmville leveraged the social media platform and soon managed to amass more than 32 million daily players and about 90 million players total. The game is over now, but its legacy of monetization and addictive mechanics on video games is real. Like it or not, the video game industry has inherited a new business model from Zynga, the company that was behind Farmville. Now, let's talk about Farmville's heritage to the video game industry in this episode of Company Forensics. Social games for busy adults. For those of you too young to remember, Farmville was a casual farming simulation game released on Facebook in 2009. Players would take care of their digital parcel, seed, harvest, have animals, and most importantly, customize and style their farms to express themselves. The game was free to play, and users could make in-game purchases and buy custom items for their farm, or do things like skip waiting times. Farmville soon became a millionaire business, changing how video games would make money after it. You would love or hate the game. Time magazine did include it in its list of the 50 worst inventions back in 2010. They argued that it was not even a game, but more of a series of mindless chores on a digital farm requiring the endless clicking of a mouse to plant and harvest crops. On the other side, Mark Pincus, the founder and the CEO of the company, has said this about the game. The real innovation of Farmville was in making games accessible to busy adults, giving them a place to invest and express themselves and be seen by people in their lives as creative. I'm honestly not sure how much creativity you can express by decorating a virtual farm with a cartoonish template. Still, the truth is that people got hooked and invested time and real money on it. The game tasks were cyclic and mostly repetitive, as Time magazine noticed, so you had to be continually checking or else everything would wither and die. But it was a game for busy adults, so no worries if your crops died, you could pay to restore them without having to start all over. You could even pay for things like farm insurance and who knows what else, as the game released new content quite often. People would take pride in their farms as they invested in customizing and taking care of them. And farms would be all over Facebook. Maybe that's why some people consider the game to be the precursor of social games, despite online and multiplayer games already existing. But the social factor in Farmville wasn't so much about interacting or playing together. It was most about pestering your Facebook contacts to get them involved in the game and earn you farm resources, or ultimately just flex your shiny digital ranch. In a way, players were like recruiters for the game, and it worked pretty well at first. It's literal virality. Tens of millions joined and became addicted to the game's mechanics. Soon, Facebook users got flooded with requests from players asking them to join or help with their farms. You can imagine how this annoyed the heck out of users who weren't into the game. Ultimately, Facebook had to put an end to the pesky notifications from Farmville. According to gaming reports, the game eventually lost tens of millions of players. But the story was far from over, because Facebook had also noticed the hundreds of millions of dollars Zynga was making, mainly with Farmville and other games like Mafia Wars or the classic Texas Hold'em. Mind you, for both games, Farmville and Mafia Wars, Zynga was sued for copyright infringement. Allegedly, previously published games named Townville and Mob Wars, respectively, were quite identical to Zynga's games. The company settled one lawsuit with an undisclosed amount of money. They won the other lawsuit as the other game was not fully copyright protected. Too bad for the guy who initially developed the game, but Zynga was in a race to the top of social games and backed by millionaire investments. No minor copyright lawsuit was going to stop these guys. Milking video games. Facebook couldn't ignore the millions that Zynga was making, and it wanted a piece of the action. After heated negotiations, the companies agreed and determined that Zynga started paying Facebook the industry standard 30% tax of overall transactions. But as this happened, the game was losing popularity on the platform. By that time, app stores were new and smartphones were starting to take over. Naturally, Zynga started turning into mobile platforms, the home of most casual players, and where microtransactions are the norm, in part thanks to them. Most Zynga games are mobile now. There are even a few Farmville sequels and countless clones on the App Store and Play Store. Their monetization legacy has spread across the gaming industry. Their so-called freemium games and a plague of microtransactions are just evident. Other traditional gaming companies like Electronic Arts or Blizzard, just to mention a couple, have taken note of the blueprint Zynga had created, and they have infested their games with microtransactions and paywalls, causing rage among loyal players. It is also an ongoing legal debate on the exposure that minors have to these mechanics and their effect on developing an addiction. You may have heard one or many stories about angry parents being surprised by digital purchases on their credit cards. Microtransactions and DLCs in console or PC games make the initial standalone game feel incomplete by default. They force people to shell out money just to pay the full game they would have purchased regularly. Gone are the days where you paid just once for a video game, maybe some extra downloadable content here and there. Today, big studios and publishers make money from in-game purchases, putting paywalls and features and content as you play, or even just selling cosmetic items that don't affect the game, other than aesthetics. That's actually how some of the most successful games, like Fortnite, are free to play and make millions of dollars. And buying cosmetic items in a game is okay, I guess. If you want the cows on your farm to be pink, or your Fortnite character to have an exclusive parachute, you are free to pay for that. Or not. You can still enjoy the game for free without these customizations. But other purchases allow players to get an edge and do things like skip waiting times to achieve goals, level up, or even get superior equipment. Pay to win and gamble mechanics. To some extent, Zynga successfully introduced the infamous idea of pay to win on video games. Game mechanics, like the energy points that you can find in countless games today, mostly mobile, come from that Farmville model. The logic of these energy points is that your actions in the game cost points, so you consume them as you play and eventually spend them all. When you're out of points, you need to wait a particular time before you can perform those actions again. The more you get into the game, the more time the energy points take to replenish. Naturally, this gives you more anxiety to keep progressing and ultimately getting you to pay to keep playing. Farmville's mystery items were probably the incursion of randomized rewards, which have evolved into the infamous loot boxes present in all kinds of games these days. With these loot boxes, players pay for a roll of dice and hope to get the item that they want on the box, very much like a slot machine. But of course, just like in slot machines, most of the time, players get an item that they didn't really want. Farmville's game design consisted of these cycles of reward and punishment that ultimately hit right on the player's serotonin receptors and got them hooked. We won't get into the psychology of addiction, but the game had and created a blueprint to monetize it. Mark Pincus himself had told how he was obsessed with an online game named Rise of Nations by the time his third startup had failed. Before creating Zynga, he spent hours playing this game. He remembers how online players were ruthless and would crush him only after a few minutes of playing. Of course, that's frustrating, and it got Pincus thinking that he would even pay to beat them. And I guess that was the light bulb moment that eventually evolved into this new business model with video games. Talking about that frustration, has it ever happened to you that you subscribe for a recurring payment and totally forget about it? The answer is yes. We developed a solution for that. It's called Recurring. Recurring keeps track of your company's and personal expenses. It'll save you money by staying on top of your essentials while you keep those virtual carrots healthy and beautiful. You can sign up for early access with the link in the description. So tell us, how did you feel watching Farmville again on the B-roll in this video? Is it happy or frustrating memories that it brings you? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next week.